Well, it's midweek. It is Wednesday, the 20th day in the month of May 2020. Welcome to another edition of the program, The Platform, right here on Flow 94.9 FM. This is the flow of God's own state. The platform is the pinnacle of all discussions. We take a look at issues as it affected their nation, Nigeria, and also as it affected their state, Abia State. And of course, the program comes up on radio every Monday, every Wednesday, and also every Friday. My name is Michael Oni. Now, the National Orientation Agency has said that it has forged an alliance with the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission. An alliance for what? To check infractions of some security operatives allegedly compromising the ban on interstate movement by accepting inducements to grant travelers passage. You remember that President Muhammadu Buhari placed a ban on interstate movement to check the spread of the coronavirus. Well, the Director General of that agency, the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garuba Abari, stated that during a presentation of the agency's observations on efforts in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. And he said that the agency is partnering with the Anti-Graft Agency to provide toll-free numbers to enable Nigerians to report such misconduct, adding that security agencies found wanting would be made to face the full wrath of the law. He regretted that despite being aware of this disease and the increasing number of confirmed COVID-19 cases and the deaths across the country, the persistent disbelief by Nigerians and many respected opinion leaders on the danger and impact of the pandemic was worrisome. Well, on the platform this morning, we're dwelling on the concerns raised by the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garuba Abari, on the alleged compromise of security officials who are supposed to ensure that there is no breakdown of these directives. We have the Abia State Coordinator of the Human Rights Commission, Barrister Uche Nwokocha, joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Barrister.
Good morning. Good morning, listeners.
We also have Barrister, the System Coordinator of Interpol and Security Consultant, Chikwe Udensi, who will be joining us later, and also the Executive Director, Prisons Rehabilitation and Welfare Action, PRAWA, Dr. Uju Agumo. Well, let's begin with the barrister in the studio this morning. We want to know what's your assessment of the performance of security agencies in ensuring that there is total compliance to the ban on interstate movement as placed by the president.
To say that I am shocked by what was going on in the borders.
Shocked?
Yes.
Interesting.
In terms of the security agencies monitoring the closure of the borders, to say that I am shocked is putting it mildly. I am completely flabbergasted. Because you see, we knew that we have somewhat weak security agencies.
Yes.
But I personally did not know that it is this weak. That a security agent will mount a block, and he was told not to allow any passenger buses, people who are not essential duty, to cross. And for good reason, for reasons of health. These people may be infected. They may have this infection, COVID-19. It is injurious to you as a security person. It is injurious to your family. It is injurious to the state and to the nation as a whole. Everybody is trying to limit movements so that this pandemic will not spread so much in the country. And then they were allowing them through. Sounds a bit as if it's a suicidal thing to me. They're exposing themselves to danger, they're exposing other people to danger. I didn't know that the security agencies have degenerated to that level.
The latest cases were reported in Abia State were 5 yesterday, and 3 out of those cases returned, their returnees from Lagos State. And one will be asking how they went through the borders, interstate borders from Lagos State down to Abia State. But we want to know What kind of report have you received from the human rights perspectives?
On the human rights perspective, the reports we've received is internally.
Okay.
People are complaining that for one reason or the other, for one infraction or the other, it's not that they've not infracted, because I've often told them, you mistook in this place. But there's one that actually bothers me about internal infractions. I don't know what is going on, but they need to examine it. Somebody will be wearing a face mask and then enter a bus. Just as he's coming very close to where the people are checking face masks, he will remove it, and the bus driver will be arrested and extorted.
Wow.
I don't know if there is something going on between these passengers and the enforcers who are enforcing these face masks and things like that. It has to be checked, because the man has a face mask when the bus driver picked him up. But at that very point,
in such a situation, is it the bus driver that should be punished, or the passenger that refused to wear his or her face mask?
In that situation, I think the driver did the right thing by only admitting passengers wearing face masks into his bus. That is where his own duty ends. Now, if you wear a face mask into a bus and coming close to where they are checking for face masks, you now remove it so that the bus driver will be arrested or the keke driver will be arrested. I think the person should be responsible for his action. The person that removes the face mask, because the driver may be driving, doesn't know what is happening behind. It is not his duty to to lock the face masks on the person's face. I think the checkers of those enforcing these face masks, they have to look into that.
A different story.
The question to the driver will be, was this man with a face mask when you picked him? If the answer then is yes, and he actually has a face mask on him, then the honors shift to him. Why are you not wearing your face mask at this point in time? The person should be responsible. No, now, apart from these internal disputes that we have the thing we receive from the boundary is so general. People are extorting us. I paid 5,000, I paid 10,000, I paid this, I paid that. Where? Along the road. Which road is that? When you get to any border, you settle. And it's true. Even though there's border closures, lockdown, people move from Sokoto to Abia State.
Just a moment, Barrister. Just a moment. We have a system coordinator of Interpol and a security consultant joining us this morning, Mr. Chikwe Udensi. Glad to have you join us this morning. Good morning to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're live on Flow 94.9 FM in Umuahia, and my name is Michael. Now, we're taking a look at the alleged compromise of security operatives concerning the ban placed on the interstate movement by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, from your regular interface with security agencies, there is a particular claim by the National Orientation Agency that they also agree that this compromise is in place. I don't know what do you agree with the National Orientation Agency's position to this huge compromise?
A compromise by who?
By security operatives concerning the enforcement of the interstate movements.
Well, just like coronavirus, you must have to understand there are some underlying factors. Very close to 80% of those who died from coronavirus were from they had the underlying ill health that made them die. You must have to listen to the professionals. There are some underlying problems associated with security in the country. It is very, very important we understand these underlying factors.
Okay.
And we shouldn't be treating the symptoms. We should be treating the disease itself. The Nigerian police force is in charge of the internal security of the country. What are the underlying problems associated with security agencies? There are so many and varied. Let me give you some of them so you can understand exactly where the problem lies.
Okay.
Number one, you know that very close to 70% of our communities are in rural areas. And you also know that the Nigerian police is understaffed. Even with the understaffing we have in Nigerian police force, about more than 70% of the understaffed police force are in the rural areas, are in the urban areas, I'm sorry. Whereas less than 30% are in the rural areas. So you see, we have more than 70% serving 30%, and then have less than 30% serving 70%. Apart from this, you should also be able to understand that over 80% of those who protect life and properties in the Nigerian police force are the NCOs. They are called the non-commissioned officers. You are looking at the constables to the inspectors. 80% of the job are done by them. And you know, for example, to be a sergeant, you must put in between 18 to 25 years. Sometimes some people have been 30 years as sergeants. They are earning about 80,000 naira a month. Until recently, their salaries came 3 or 4 months in arrears.
So, sir, are you saying that we cannot completely blame this alleged extortion on the operatives on the roads manning those borders?
I'm not saying they don't exist, but I'm trying to give you the underlying factors.
Okay.
But there are reasons why these things exist. If you start talking about the problems without knowing where the problems are coming from, you will not be able to solve the problems. The DPOs we are talking about, the divisional police officers or divisional police offices, are understaffed. Where there are vehicles, most of them don't have vehicles. Where there are vehicles, there is no provision for them to maintain those vehicles. Not even for fluid levels of the vehicles. And that was why most states in the north and in the west became very proactive and established homeland securities and also the instrumentality to solve them. You saw how long it took the western region to put together Amotekun. Less than 2 weeks. Very close to 1 year now, the Southeast cannot establish one single thing to help in homeland security. The problems are real. The problems are exasperating. But we need to have our proactive governors in the Southeast to wake up to their responsibilities of protecting lives and properties. Where the federal institutions cannot do this, we should ensure that we have an inbuilt arrangement to make sure that this has been done. The North is doing it, the West is doing it, Southeast cannot even put together the Obunigwe they have arranged to put together. This is where the problem lies, my dear. There are basic factorial underlying factors that must be considered in determining so many things. Yes, the people on the streets, if a vehicle is moving from one part of the state to another and where there are prohibitions, you will see that in the rural areas where you have to pass very close to 70% of the arrangement, they collect monies from them because they are poorly paid. They don't have enough on the streets. They are frustrated. We have to build an arrangement, a mechanism that will make sure that we do not pay them so poorly. Let me be honest with you. The language is very simple. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. It is simple. The underlying factor is very there. If you don't train them, you don't blame them. So what we are paying them and the number of them on the streets are not enough to substantiate a sizable security apparatus in the system.
If we continue like this, there is definitely a very serious security implication that is lying ahead. Can you highlight them?
The security implications are there already. As I'm talking to you now, I have very vital information that the number of those who have been stopped from moving into Southeast. The militant arrangement that is being connived by so many people now, the number of those that have been stopped is a tip of the iceberg as to the number of those that have entered Southeast. I'm telling you, the danger is real. And we have told our governors, you must have to sit up. You must have to do the necessary. You must have to make sure that you protect life and properties where the federal agencies cannot do that. Unfortunately, the Southeast governors are still sleeping for some reason. And the danger is imminent. The danger is very imminent.
Preferring solutions now to these dangers and of course some of the issues you've highlighted, don't you think that regional security is a time bomb?
I sent a team of my boys to go and meet the Commissioner for Homeland Security in Abia State to profile free solutions, give free advice on how we can secure Abia State, for example, which is my priority. Now, I understand that the young man, they could not reach him. It is important you put the round peg in the round hole. We are told that the commissioner there is a former chairman of the local government who was drafted in to be the commissioner. I do not know the extent of job he's doing yet, so I cannot make a proper judgment as what he's doing. But I'm saying that we must have to look for security experts, or at least harness their advice. Right now, we are not doing that. I'm sounding some serious note of alarm that we are having problems on our hands. I have advised governments. When I called a few state governors the other time in Southeast on the composition of the Southeast Security Agency, I was only able to reach 3 of them. And it took me very close to 4 weeks to reach 3. They're all sitting on their high horses. They can't even come to the level of the masses to listen. And if somebody like me, the highest ranking security consultant in the country, cannot reach our people here, then you can imagine what those who ordinarily are on the streets and have ideas who they can reach. So I am saying that our leaders must have to listen. Our leaders must have to show some level of proactivity in ensuring that we set up our regional security apparatus, because the danger is imminent. What we see on the crime desk here, what we see every day from our security intelligence as to the movement of very, very dangerous people around the southeastern area, that's where I'm concerned. What we see is very, very devastating, and we are all sitting on kegs of gunpowder. I hope it does not explode anytime soon. If it does, it is going to be dangerous.
All right.
The Southeast governors should set up like other regions of Nigeria, set up our security apparatus, make sure we have competent hands to run them, and make sure that they do the internal security of our region, which is very important. We cannot leave it to federal security agencies. They are understaffed, they are underpaid, they are frustrated, they are disgruntled. That is where the problem lies. And that is the disease, not the symptom of the disease.
Okay, just before I let you go this morning, we want to know how soon, because you're saying that, well, if something is not done as soon as possible, we're sitting on a gunpowder. How soon do you think we can get a solution from some of these challenges you've highlighted this morning?
One of the governors told me that he's frustrated by the attitude of his fellow governors. Our governors, if we do not do something now, most of the activities of these hoodlums and these criminals are being hampered by the restrictions that we have today nationwide for the coronavirus. But for the COVID-19 restrictions, you would have seen free movements. The ones we are finding today is because there are restrictions. And we were told earlier that there was a hitch-top arrangement to attack some parts of the country by the Easter. But by the Easter, there were restrictions already in place. So the governments are giving us information. The security agencies are giving us information that, listen, that imminent danger. But then there are no tools. There are no instrumentalities for fighting this danger. Therefore, every region have taken proactive steps.
All
The
right.
Western region have done more than everybody else expected. The Southeast is still comatose. That's
right.
unfortunate.
All right, Sir Chikwe Udensi, System Coordinator of Interpol and Security Consultant. Thank you very much for your analysis on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, Barrister is still very much in the studio. Barrister Uche Nwokocha is still very much in the studio. The Abia State Coordinator of Human Rights Commission. Now, Barrister, you heard that analysis. Seems things are even worse than we can imagine. Now, if the situation is as bad as being portrayed now by the consultant, what do you think is the next thing we should do?
I think the next thing we should do is what the consultant suggested.
Okay.
The situation is really bad. Everybody expects we expect our governors, our leaders to do something about the situation. But they seem to be doing nothing. At least nothing I can see. Maybe they're doing something underground, but there's nothing that I know of they're doing. And if Saudensi doesn't know, I'll probably agree with him that so far they're not doing anything. I agree to everything he said about the frustration in our police force. It's obviously there. You will say it. It's very obvious. Everything he said is correct.
I know you must have heard so many reports concerning infringement by this same security operative.
Exactly. But there's always a bet.
Okay.
The bet there is that why we see this frustration on the poor masses. But somebody else will say, how else will they express
that's another
their
angle.
frustration? I don't think it is fair. The citizens of Nigeria have already suffered enough. All these security infractions, all these security breaches that he talked about, who will be the victims of the security breaches? The citizens. All these frustrations being expressed by these our understaffed and underempowered security operatives. Who bears the brunt of it?
The citizens.
The citizens.
You know what happened? 3 persons were killed in Abia State just at the start of the ban on movement.
Exactly. The citizens. Now, if we all keep, I don't want to say that Saudensi exonerated the security agencies, but the citizens are also crying. Who are being extorted? The citizens. All these things boils down on the citizens. And what will happen when the citizens say no?
Okay.
Like what happened in Ebem or Hofia. The crisis is still there. It's still being investigated because something happened and the people reacted. And reacted in such a way that it caused a lot of damage. That problem is still there.
All right.
Is that what is expected for citizens to do? To take laws into their hands?
Okay.
Now that the Southeast governors has failed to put a security operative in place so that people will say this is where we can go for assistance. Now if the citizens decide to secure themselves all over, what do you think will happen? We have a serious crisis. I think this calls for urgent action. Very, very urgent action.
All right, just a moment, Barrister. We have Dr. Uju Agumo, the Executive Director, Prisons Rehabilitation and Welfare Action, Prawa, joining us this morning on the conversation. Doctor, you're welcome. Hello. Good morning to you, Dr. Uju. Hello, Doctor. Hello. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, glad to have you join us this morning, Doctor, on the conversation. You're live on Flow 94.9 FM. Now, some security experts have attributed the breakdown of the directives on interstate movement on non-uniformity of policies by subnational government. Do you subscribe to this?
I think it's a combination of different factors, and
basically also for the fact that I don't think many of the security agencies and indeed many of the citizens are fully understanding the implications of the danger that confronts us. So I also see lack of awareness, lack of adequate buy-in by these agencies. That's part of also the challenge, because if people see this as a life and death matter, if they do see this that it is like a war, if they see it as something that threatens both public safety and health, economy of the whole nation, and indeed of the states, and indeed of the sub-region, which is the Southeast in this regard, they would be a little bit more cooperative in terms of the outreach. So again, my response is that it's not that simplistic. It's a combination of different factors that are playing.
Well, security operatives are saying, security consultant that we had this morning said we should take a look at the angle of underlying factors, being understaffed, poor welfare, lack of manpower, adequate manpower of some of these federal operatives. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with some of the points that it is made here. I mean, in terms of the fact that when things happen, we don't just look at the immediate cause, but we also look at the remote causes. The issue about the number is something that I have a different approach with respect to that, in the sense that even if you look at many of the countries in the West, and West here I'm talking about developed countries in quote, what you see is that you don't really have too many individuals. You use technology to do much of the surveillance. You use community participation. Sometimes it's an elderly woman or elderly man in a house that notices a danger out there and calls 911 and begins to give complaints about certain things. So again, it's not a question of number, it's a question of what are we using. And I think there's need for more utilization of technology. I know that there is a technology in terms of drones that can even do surveillance and see the area picture of certain locations. But the point about welfare is very valid. It's valid on both sides. So if the security agency is saying that, it's hungry, hasn't been paid well, he has problems at home, has family to feed, and he comes out and somebody is willing to give them 100,000, for example, to put a dead body all the way from Kano, for example, to say come through any state in the Southeast, he's ready to take that 100,000 because he knows he would use it for his family. The same way, even for the citizens, because sometimes it's not only about these security agencies, it's also about that driver that is willing to bribe and to tempt the security agents to pick certain funds or money corruptly because they know that they have charged those passengers more. So the same challenge for the person, the individual that is coming out, telling you, I'm only coming out because I have to survive. I know the government said I shouldn't move, but my family, they're hungry. So again, economy and welfare package play a critical role across board. So my point here again is that we need to look at these things very holistically. We certainly need to. And you can't have a security agent collecting bribe if there is no willing person given that bribe. And I know that even if the security agent is saying, I need it, right? And you decide that you cannot continue to encourage that practice and you refuse. After a while, all you just need to do is exercise a little bit of patience, record what is happening and do the needful. So I think that in fight against corruption and also ensuring compliance in this requires everybody to put hands together to make it work.
Well, we've had situations, I do agree with you, but we've had situations where you will not be willing to give out the bribe and you're on your right. And at the end of the day, the security agent or the security operative it's been termed accidental discharge, will release the weapon. Now, in such a situation, what do you expect an ordinary Nigerian who doesn't know anyone, doesn't have anyone at the top of the echelon to do? Hello, doctor. Hello. Seems we have to move on. We lost the connection there, but I will put the question to you, Barrister, in the studio. Now, you heard what she said concerning
Yes.
not willing to give bribe, but we've had situations where you will not be willing to give bribe, but you will be forced, because at the end of the day, if you are not willing to give the bribe to make your way into the state, you might be shot. You will be threatened because the operative is armed.
I listened to what Dr. Gomo said with attentively, and I need to point out something here. For society to work smoothly, there are checks and balances. Why do we have the security in the first place? Because we knew that human beings, being what they are, some people find it difficult to obey laws. That is why we have them in the first place. And their duty is to check such people who are likely to do such things. Now, where you are supposed to check them and you are collecting money from them for them to do the wrong thing, it makes nonsense of the
whole
security,
process.
everything that apparatus in place. It makes nonsense of it. There should be checks and balances, and that is why they are there. Because the law knows that there are people who will like to infringe. And because there are people who will like to infringe, you have to put in place people who will check them to make sure that they do not infringe. Much as I know, I understand the economic challenges, the difficulties, and the welfare thing. I do. But I think in this lockdown thing, not only were they exposing themselves to danger, even the same family they want to feed with the money they collected, they're exposing them to danger, and they're also exposing the rest of us to danger. Coming to refusal to give bribe, the prison is full of people. The correctional centers are full of Nigerians whose offense was that at the end of the day, they refused to give bribe. I've heard them often use this word. Assuming you are arrested for say, for stealing, and it's a bailable offense, they've accepted to grant you bail, and they want you to pay for the bail, which is equivalent to giving bribe, and you refuse. You may be charged for armed robbery.
Okay.
What they call it escalating. We can escalate this your matter, and you think it's a joke. And when they are talking and you're talking, the government, of course, will believe them, because the government finds it difficult, or it doesn't make sense, the government doubting its own security, because the government assumes we train them, we giving them the code of conduct, they are working the way we want them to work. So if there's an argument between yourself and these law enforcers, of course, anybody listening, the government listening, everybody will like to believe what they're saying. It was you who really need to prove your own point, and it will be very, very difficult for you. Some people have been in jail for long for refusal to give bribe.
We've been also encouraged to also have a tape recording. Now you have phones that can do the recording, and you have an evidence. Do you think that will be possible in this country?
Most security outfits do not allow you to take phones into their
checkpoints.
Not even checkpoints, into their premises. A lot of them do not allow that. A lot of them do not allow that.
So
it's not just peculiar to the police. Okay. Like I said, a lot of security agencies do not allow that. So what are you taping? What are you videoing? What are you photographing? It will be your word against theirs. And because I've said, assuming there's a problem and you people, if both of you are now invited by the officer in charge,
yes,
let's say the commandant or the CP invited the officer that you are complaining against, and who do you think the CP will believe?
Okay.
Of course he will believe, he will believe his own officer. Unless you have serious evidence. Unless you have very serious, even as of that, he will even find it difficult. Because indicting his officer may mean indicting himself. But some of them are really very brave. They do that. They will indict the officer, even if it means that he's somehow liable because of being the head. The person will do that. But it happens rarely.
Okay. Interesting conversation we're having this morning on the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions right here on Flow 94.9 FM, the flow of God's own state. As we are taking a look at the alleged compromise of some security operatives enforcing the ban on interstate lockdown being imposed by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You can join the conversation this morning by dialing the numbers 0808 182 6949 or 0811 605 2949. Also drop messages on 0906 510 8289. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Chewafo.
You're welcome.
I want to make us to understand that this corruption of Feten has been there since time immemorial. If we are Guinea, they will tell you for donkey years. I remember 1994, in front of CPS, a particular police officer was driving wrongly. And I had to call him, sir, look at, you're bridging the traffic. You know, this guy took me to CPS and flogged hell out of me. He was helped by the traffic ward that was working there. Do you understand me? See, the only thing I believe is Southeast governors coming together, accepting on what to do, to make sure we have our own internal security. Because if we are to be looking at it by the security being provided by presidency, we are going nowhere. They are the main people sabotaging the effort of our state government. Say, for instance, Sachiku Densi talked about Omoteku. Do you know that the three cases that we had from Lagos State passed through Lagos to Ogun State, Edo State, and all the rest of them getting to other states?
All right, quickly wrap up a thought to work.
Are we saying that there were no security men out there? They should please change their attitude. The earlier they do this, the better for each and every one of them.
Thank you very much. Hello, good morning.